Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
It's Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. Welcome to your Daily Detroit. I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays.
On today's show, Jer heads over to Van Dyke Avenue near Detroit's Indian Village and West Village neighborhoods to check out 27th Letter Books. Jer, I'm a sucker for a good bookstore. I'm excited to hear this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed talking to the couple that owns the place, Erin and Drew Pineda. They just seem like fabulous people.
Yeah, it's cool in that old retail spot over there on Van Dyke near Agnes. Anyway, let's get right into it.
So, Erin and Drew, this is a beautiful space. Tell me a little bit about where we are.
So right now we're on 1417 Van Dyke over in West Village, which used to be the old Paramita Sound record store. And we're having our holiday pop-up here through the end of January.
So why did you pick this spot?
We were really lucky with that winning the Hatch Detroit program, have some connections through Victoria, the executive director, and actually a friend of hers owns this space. And so it was really close to being ready to go. We just had to kind of clean up, put some new paint on the walls and bring in our books. And so it was perfect for a really short pop-up situation.
I mean, that's really fortunate because there's a lot of, it's hard to find ready to go retail space, especially in Detroit's neighborhoods right now.
Oh, extremely. Yeah. And that's kind of the challenge. And we're still looking to be in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood for our permanent location. But that's definitely the challenge. We looked at a couple of spots over there trying to do a pop-up and things were not quite ready yet. And we weren't able to get that occupancy over there. So we got lucky with this spot. So
let's start from where we last talked to you. We last chatted with you for the Hatch Detroit contest amongst a number of people vying for the $100,000 grand prize and a bunch of sports services. How has life been since then?
Life has been pretty busy. You know, once the Hatch Detroit contest finished up, there's so many doors that opened up. And so what we're focusing on is building on that momentum and seeing where it takes us.
And so what was the thought behind doing a pop-up space for the holidays and not, say, waiting for the permanent space?
I think it's been our mentality from the beginning with even just doing pop-ups as our initial thing to try and get books out there to people in a number of different ways. And so we wanted to keep that momentum going and we wanted people to have an opportunity to see what our store was going to be like, kind of get an idea of the vision and be able to picture that as we build into our permanent location.
And I think part of our business mentality as well is we try to be as proactive as we can be and putting ourselves in those positions. And so that's why we really do favor and why we started with that mobile setup and doing these pop-ups in interesting places. And it's all based in that idea of putting ourselves out there and seeking out those opportunities.
You know, I think a lot of people have a grand vision for what they want to do. And maybe I hear what you're saying. It seems like the pop-up experience can teach you some things and help you refine what you're doing. What have you learned through the pop-up process?
Absolutely. I think it's been a great way to get to know the community and get to know what kind of books people are interested in, what they want to see. We have a little notebook out every place we go that says like share your book recommendations. And so we can take those and we've actually started to stock some of the books that people have recommended because it's if one person in the neighborhood is interested in it, chances are they're going to tell their friend and then they're going to come in and maybe see that book that they heard about somewhere else. So it's a great way to get to know the community, know people's interests, and also learn a lot about the business side of things and being a retail space in general.
Yeah. I think from a business standpoint, you know, it's kind of like a litmus test in these different places that we've been and seeing what we can learn from each pop-up and seeing, okay, who's buying what kind of book, or is the community interested in this kind of book? Am I gonna order 3 of this certain title or maybe just 1? And so that kind of helps give us a little bit of feedback and something to build on as we continue to look towards opening our permanent space.
So for folks who don't know, I mean, you're both obviously lovers of books, but you haven't been in the book business your entire lives. Kind of what's your background?
Drew and I were both in the Air Force for about 10 years. I'm actually still in the reserves. So that's where we met. Very romantic situation. Where our first conversation was filling sandbags in basic training.
Yeah. So in our, I guess, professional lives, you know, that's kind of what we bring to the business. But you know, on surface level, they may seem like they're very disparate or very different kind of things. But in the military, you know, you learn that sort of discipline and these very, there's a lot of organization that goes into things. We were both officers, and so we have experience from the leadership standpoint of understanding what it's like to work with people. And so taking that perspective and seeing how we can take our experience there and translate it to the book industry has been pretty interesting. I think we carry those experiences and have that perspective, which I think is pretty unique for us.
Well, I've met a lot of veteran business owners over the years, and that is definitely a huge strength because if anything, entrepreneurship requires a lot of perseverance and focus, right? Because things are not going to go as planned. I think that's just like how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Are there any surprises that you found that you're like, I didn't know this was going to happen, and kind of how did you deal with them?
I think even like the experience of the Comerica Hatch Detroit was definitely a surprise in a way. The day that they had the announcement for the top 10 finalists was the day I got back from my annual tour with the reserve. So I literally got off a plane, went home, slept for a couple hours, and then came out to set up our mobile pop-up for that event. And so kind of that roll with the punches mentality. I don't know if that quite answers your question. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think, Drew?
I think one of the surprises would be, business. It's such a different beast to tackle, and we've been exposed to a lot of different things. And in the military, we were kind of the penchant of the military is like trial by fire. You're this new, you're a new soldier, airman, whatever you are, but they just, you're put into these unfamiliar situations, and it's almost sink or swim. And, in a way, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, we're used to that. And so we kind of thrive in those environments. But I think the surprise is how much that has been stretched in the business sense of, wow, like, for example, we consider ourselves pretty patient and pretty measured, but just coming across from the business standpoint, it takes this much longer to do certain things, whether that's seeking approvals from the city, whether we're being told build out will take this long. And so all of these things are certainly new to us.
So let's talk about what's happening now, and that's this space. Kind of what is your thought behind what's on the shelves? I see a wide variety books for people that really seem like they could be really great gift options.
Oh, definitely. We hope you come in for some holiday shopping. I think books are a perfect holiday gift because it's kind of a way to say, what someone's interested in and you're excited to share something new with them. We have a little bit of everything, all the way from children's to adult fiction and nonfiction. A lot of it is stuff that we're interested in, that we love to see kind of curated from our own personal taste, but then we're also starting to build in those community interests and recommendations we get. So we're excited about that.
I think that's the fun thing about owning a bookstore is that you get to share a little bit of your personality as well with the inventory that you carry. So we do definitely have titles that I guess would be, New York Times bestsellers. We're carrying things like that, but also we're carrying works from local presses and smaller publishers that we're definitely excited about, that we do want to share with people and say, hey, you might be into this author and you might otherwise not have heard about them.
So one of the things I noticed, and there's like one right next to me and there's quite a few behind me, there's these very lovingly written notes. What is that about? They're on to give listeners an idea, they're right underneath some books. Usually they're tilted out so you can kind of see the title. But what are these notes about?
They're called in the book industry as shelf talkers. And so it's a way for people to kind of get a sort of little review of the book from our perspective and why we think it's important to share. So they just give you a little insight and hopefully help convince you maybe this is the title for me or for someone I love as a gift option. So.
And I think it builds on this idea that we want to be very intentional with what we're carrying and intentional with what we're recommending. And so everything from, if there's a book, you might see a note there and then, okay, they're highlighting that note. But not only is there a note there, but it's handwritten. And we took the time to really think through what we wanted to say about that book. And then we handwrite it. And it adds that personal touch that buying online, you just completely miss.
So before we talk about your future plans, if people want to shop here, kind of what days, what are your hours, that kind of thing?
Awesome. We are open Tuesday through Sunday right now, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but we're looking at extending it a little bit later in the evening too. So you can find out when we do that on our social media, which is at 27th Letter Books, and we'll continue to let people know when we're open.
Let's talk about the future a little bit here. I know that things are still coming together, but what can you share about your ideas for going even a little bit farther east?
So we are actively looking in the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood to open up. We've looked at a couple buildings and we have our eyes on some prospects. I don't want to put any promises out there just because we haven't signed anything officially yet. You know, with the momentum from the Hatch Detroit contest, that's opened up a lot of possibilities for us. And we're kind of taking those one at a time and seeing what's available for us.
Do you have kind of like a rough timeline? Are you still not quite there yet?
We're hoping sometime in the first half of next year, but it will depend. And like we said earlier, kind of patience, right? Some of the spaces do need a little bit of love. And so we're hoping the build out can be done by then. But depending on the timeline of the build out, that's going to be the big limiting factor, I think, of when we can get open over in Jefferson Chalmers. That being said, we're going to continue to do pop-ups on the east side. We have some coming up in the month of December. And then even when we're out of this temporary home, we will continue to do pop-ups if our permanent location isn't open yet.
It may sound cheesy, but welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out and checking out the space. We so appreciate it.
All right, friends, that's going to do it for today's show. I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jared Stays. Thanks to our members who make this show possible. You can join them at patreon.com/Daily Detroit.
Remember that we love you, take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.